What's up, marketing maniacs, and welcome back to another episode of From Startup to Wunderbrand, your ultimate BFF in the wide world of digital marketing. Join me, your host, Nicholas Kuhner, spilling the beans on the juiciest trends and hottest tips to up your marketing game. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of From Startup to Wunderbrand with Nicholas Kuhner. We've got an exciting guest today, Zhe Scott, an MIT alum, CEO of the SEO Queen and empowering business leader. So, Zhe, awesome to have you with us today. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. So glad to be here.
Now, I hear you've got some exciting news. You've just been featured in a fantastic new magazine called Algorithm Magazine. So we're going to start out on that. So you are a specialist in SEO. You've got this method called the Quantum SEO Method that helps businesses win online regardless of what the Google algorithm is doing. And I think a lot of people fret about that Google algorithm. So maybe we can touch on that, but let's go into the Algorithm Magazine. Why did they reach out to an MIT grad like yourself? And why talk about SEO? I mean, surely SEO has been around for a couple of years now. Why was that exciting for them?
Well, the Algorithm Magazine, when I was talking with them, I was sharing with them my thoughts about why the algorithms that we deal with every day are so important and impactful, and why business owners need to understand how to leverage them to drive productivity and growth in their business. That's why we had that conversation.
Okay. And when people think about algorithms, they think of this black box sitting at the back of Google or behind businesses. But a lot of these algorithms are quite not standardized, but there's a rhythm or a process that goes into them. And I think one of those processes which ties into SEO is the fact that if you change your SEO today, you can't expect to be on the front page of Google tomorrow. Maybe talk to us about the importance of timing and the Google algorithm.
Well, I know that there is a proverb that says, when is the best time to plant a tree? And the answer is yesterday. What's the best time to plant a tree? If you can't plant it yesterday, it's today. And the same thing with your SEO. We all know that as you optimize your website, if you put more time in the past, you should get more results in the future. And so SEO is one of those things that if you want to own and dominate your niche and be well known in your industry, it is something you can't avoid, because Google is the biggest, largest website getting the most traffic on the planet.
So I think folks know Google obviously is the big daddy when it comes to SEO. But what about sites like Pinterest, which I think, if I have my stats right, it's the biggest image archive in the world. Can you do SEO on Pinterest?
Absolutely. And there's over 450 million users on Pinterest. Their average income is over $100,000 a year. And so as a business owner, Pinterest is a place you have to have a presence on. Many, many years ago, I think it was 12 years ago, when I was optimizing websites and I was going through Google Search Console, I noticed that Pinterest pins were listed under links in Search Console. And that is when I really became a firm believer in using Pinterest as a part of my, not only my social media signal strategy with SEO, but also a link building strategy. So you get 2 for 1 with Pinterest, and Pinterest is free. Pinterest needs content. They have absolutely improved their app. You can pin from your phone, you can pin from a computer, you can pin images, you can pin reels, you can pin GIFs, and you have a space to put in your hashtags and your content, your call to action, and a great caption. So it's absolutely a platform you cannot ignore.
I think it's the poor cousin of SEO, and it's also, as you mentioned, sort of totally undervalued almost, because it's free and it's a huge search platform like Google. So if you are a retail company and don't have your product sitting on or tagged on Pinterest, you're losing out on potential revenue, potential saves, and backlinks as well, right?
Absolutely. Pinterest is a treasure trove of value to get more visibility for your company, and I highly, highly recommend it.
Now, we're talking about traditional SEO, which is on things like Google and your website. Are there any new platforms where folks are perhaps not using SEO to its fullest advantage? And maybe an example would be TikTok or Snapchat or something like that.
Well, you do have your social media channels, but one thing that I'm really, really passionate about are search generated experiences, and that's optimizing your brand for visibility in AI. And so I think it's really, if you just put up a website and just post content, you can optimize it all you want, but if you don't build a brand, you're going to miss out on the visibility in search results that are enhanced by AI. Google right now, if you go to Search Labs, is doing a beta test for the integration of Gemini into search results. And actually, in the inaugural issue of the Algorithm magazine, there's a great article about comparing Gemini and Bard, a Gemini and ChatGPT, excuse me. And so comparing these two chat engines are really important, but getting back to just search generated experiences, this is really important. And as a business owner, as a marketer, as a algorithm aficionado, it is very important to me to sound the alarm on businesses and brands to really build a brand. You really have to have your social media presence. You have to do the digital PR. You have to do the content strategy and deploying the blogs. It's really important for you to have video presence on YouTube. This is how you are going to be visible when people are asking Gemini and ChatGPT questions, and this is how your brand will bubble to the surface.
So that's such an exciting point, because I've been thinking about when I'm getting responses on ChatGPT, for example, you don't necessarily get links back to the brand. But when you use Gemini or when you use tools such as Perplexity.ai, it gives you links directly to where the sources of that information came from, versus just a amalgamation of data that ChatGPT has got from the internet. How do you start building those branded links? How do you build your brand in this age of AI? I mean, you've mentioned a couple of things, video, and I suppose that's because of transcripts that go onto YouTube. So there's a lot of data generated there. But what kind of plan could you put in place as a new company, that because this gives a lot of companies an opportunity to challenge the legacy guys out there who are perhaps maybe a little bit slower on the draw?
Yeah, so one thing I would highly recommend for new companies is make sure you're creating those digital assets. You need to one have a presence on all the major social media, Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram. It's very important to have a presence there. It's also important for you when you're creating content on your website to push that content onto LinkedIn. Having a presence on LinkedIn is also important as well. And it's also important for you to, as a new brand, to be aware of a user generated content. If you can create and leverage a user generated content for your brand and integrate your brand into other platforms, calls for user generated content. LinkedIn has a very, very aggressive user generated content strategy. This is how you can boost the visibility of your brand and also bubble up to the surface on the searches in Gemini. One of the things that I have also found is making sure you have your citations, doing link building where you're just writing articles, guest posting. I'm finding that does not move the needle as much because many of those sites are losing traffic. They're being de-indexed. Google is definitely not looking at just random blog sites as favorably. And so it's really important for you to spend your time and effort obtaining links from websites that are in the business of posting content and have a distinct brand. One of my clients just got featured on MSN.com from a story that I wrote. And this is where the rubber meets the road. And this is what is really important to get visibility online. You really have to aspire higher, reach higher, think bigger.
So the quality of the citations, obviously a good point, and perhaps we're seeing an inflection point in the past from where everyone could just create content, anyone could have a blog site, etc. And we are now going back to the traditional media model where you want to go to a trusted source versus just reading somebody's random blogs. So I think that's interesting. Just to for those listeners who are perhaps not very clued up in terms of links and backlinks and so on, I suppose we're talking about the difference between on-page and off-page SEO, and the links play a big part in that, yeah? In terms of
Yeah,
helping you bubble up to the
absolutely.
top of Google.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Neil Patel, the founder and CEO of MP Digital, and myself, and so many of us really agree that building a brand is key. Having your meta tags, your keywords, your content on your website, that's never going to not be important. But, just those things to move the needle onto Google page one. Pinterest is great. Having your citations is great, but the digital PR is a game changer, because not only can you count on those links to help boost the visibility of your website, but you can also include that coverage in your marketing materials. And that in turn gives you a 2 for 1. It gives you the backlink and it gives you additional content that you can use in your marketing. And it shows that your brand is contributing to the national conversation on that platform, in that space. The link and the visibility that my client got from being on MSN.com and other platforms is really just important and a game changer.
Can you repeat that? Because it's disappeared from my brain, but it's the A. What did you call it again?
Search generated experiences.
Search generated
SGE.
experiences. SGE.
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 Yes.
I've got to remember that.
It's
Why?
new. It's new. This
Yeah,
is
that's
this
why
is
I'm loving
like
it.
this
And
did
a
not
time.
exist really a year ago. This
Yeah.
is bleeding edge topics that we're expounding on today.
So where this is wonderful, and where the importance of brand and brand personality comes in, is that the only way you as a business are, well, one benefit that you can have of focusing on this is when you go to ChatGPT or Gemini or Gronk or whatever it is, and you say, write this in the style of Hunter S. Thompson, write this in the style of New York Times, write this in the style of X. It's got to have a library, or it's got to have experience, or there's got to be enough content for it to be able to emulate a style. And as a brand, if you can, or as a personality, if you've built enough content and you've got enough proper SEO content out there, people would be able to do something in your style. So it's a great opportunity for companies or individuals to start generating content, but maintaining a very, very, very clear tone of voice or brand tone of voice that is obviously that from that business. And I think a lot of people going onto AI are just generating random AI. It sounds like it's written by AI. And that tone of voice that a brand can create now, by making sure that it's using the same tone of voice time and time over again, is going to be a benefit when it comes to this new process that you're talking about.
Yeah, I really developing and being committed to your brand voice is important. What's also important is just the foundational basics and being consistent on doing those things over and over again. That's how you're going to win. And just being visible in the national conversation. Like, media is so important. I can't emphasize that enough. And then also, I want to weave in here the Quantum SEO method that I've developed. This is important because this takes a very different view to your SEO strategy. Most companies look at your SEO as a keyword here, a keyword there. No, we're looking at groups of hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of keywords and hits, and developing a content strategy that will include all of those keywords so that you have a robust content strategy that's delving into all those areas. And this is very important because if you look at the top 500 businesses, franchises, One thing that is similar across the board, they have a very robust presence on search. This is how people are searching. They're not driving around, walking on the street. They're going to Amazon, YouTube, Google, TikTok, and searching. And so, by you as a brand investing in those digital assets, developing those digital assets, developing your brand voice, being consistent, not just cherry picking which platform you're going to be in, but being on them all and really speaking to all the things that people are asking online that's relevant to you. That's how you're going to win.
That sounds like a tall ask for a lot of companies because, firstly, you've got to understand exactly who your customer is. Secondly, you've got to be on the pulse of how society or your customer is changing. And I don't know whether you've seen it in the last couple of years, but the speed at which society is changing is, I feel, much faster than 10, 20 years ago, where it's sort of the 5 year, maybe a 7 year sort of turning cycle for big changes to come across. And this makes, obviously, it quite important for folks to update their SEO consistently and keep a finger on the pulse. How do you keep your finger on the pulse in terms of how these keywords are changing? Is it using like something like SEMrush or Ahrefs, or do you have a proprietary software, or is it interviews? How do you go about differentiating the way you find these keywords versus what everyone else can find?
Well, I don't have access to any different data than anyone else. I use the top platforms that all the top SEOs use. SEMrush, Spy, all of those, A Ahrefs, all of those things. The thing that makes it different for me is how I look at that data. How I look at that data, and also I have the cultural competency. I'm an avid reader of many different platforms. I'm always on the platforms that I want to feature my clients on. So I understand what type of content is germane to that brand, to that platform. It's just spending the time to understand. And if you as a brand don't have the time to spend all the hours that, I know that I spend doing that, you need to come and talk to the SEO queen. Got you.
I love that. And it's true. And anyone I was actually updating my website and doing some SEO today. I was thinking, oh, this is such drudge work, but it has to be done. But the nice thing is, if you love data and if you love words, I mean, this is the job for you. Can I ask, if we go back a step or two, how did you get into SEO? This is not exactly the sexy territory. What made you choose SEO and to become the SEO queen?
Well, when I was growing up, my father was told by his mother to get into computers. And so as I was growing up, I grew up around computers. It was, for me, it was just, I was going to major in either computer science or information technology and then go to law school. That was my assumption as a tween, as a child, as a teenager. Once I got to college and my freshman year at MIT, I built my first website. I immediately understood the power of the internet. It was just intuitively obvious. And so at that moment, I learned how to build websites. And my first job out of MIT was working for Raytheon, a Fortune 500 company, as a business programming technologist, a web applications developer. So I was building websites on the internet that was integrated with HTML and SQL to do various functionalities. And so during this time of really building the websites and just understanding the power of the reach, I was sitting in my cubicle at Raytheon and I wanted to have a bigger impact on Main Street and helping businesses grow. And over time, I learned more about SEO because Google came about. It was birthed around the same time I was graduating from college. And so over time, I wasn't a first adopter of Google. I was definitely sold on the website, but as over time in my experience occurred. I just fell in love with SEO. When I crossed paths with SEO, I kind of stuck and stayed there.
And I suppose the great thing with SEO is you can see the results in real time in terms of if it's working or not. And are there any super cool client examples you can give of perhaps somebody who didn't take SEO seriously, listened to the SEO queen, and then saw some staggering changes?
Well, one of my clients, I met them at the North American Music Show, NAMM, and all their electronic bolt instruments were being distributed to stores. So they would form these relationships through trade shows. I really love their violins and their products. And I spoke to them about SEO, and then we did a really deep dive. I mean, we looked at all their competition, we looked at all the keywords for their niche, and really optimized their presence for that. And they did not have a revenue stream from their website and from those efforts. They got a 6-figure revenue stream just by investing in their SEO. And Beyonce used all their instruments in her Coachella performance. So that's
That
pretty
helps.
phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and again, I think for companies, if you don't know, you don't know. So it's very important to chat to the experts and get that analysis in terms of where your business is now and what benefit SEO can have if you haven't done it properly. Because I'm sure lots of companies have done some basic SEO, but it's done as housekeeping. We've just got the main keywords done. We're okay. But I think if companies are looking at taking themselves to that next level or increasing revenue, finding new revenue streams and partnerships, looking at SEO in a more strategic way is definitely something they should have a look at. So,
Yeah, I completely agree. SEO is a branding activity, it's a revenue driving activity, it's a information marketing activity. It helps so much at every stage of the funnel.
now, just to cap off, I mean, you've written a book on SEO mastery as well, on SEO training. And I hear there's a new one in the works as well. So what I'd like is, I'm not going to put pressure on you, but we would like the 2024, 2025 version out with the new SG,
SGE, search generated
SGE,
experiences.
search
Yeah.
generated experience. I'm going to have to say that time is 5 times, search generated experience. I think that's going to be a big chapter, obviously, in this, or a book by itself, or a paper in itself, because that's a super exciting concept. So I'm looking forward to
Absolutely.
that. No
Mhm.
pressure on you to maintain your crown by talking about that and getting a new book out. But super exciting about that, the magazine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link in the bio where folks can check out that magazine, check out your interview. And also, I think you've got an offer for our listeners.
Yes, I do. So there, I have a free video case study for you to learn more about SEO, and you can also claim a complimentary 15-minute strategy call with me. I would love to help you
What?
with your SEO.
So if you've ever wanted to speak to a queen, this is your opportunity. Z, thank you so much for spending time with us. Some
Well,
great
thank you for
concepts, and I
having me
hope,
on your podcast, Nicholas. Thank you so much.
yeah, not a problem. So I'm going to share those links. So make sure you get your 15 minutes with Z and have a look at that free video case study and get your SEO up and running to find those new revenue streams. Now, before we wrap up, don't forget to show some love for From Startup to Wunderbrand by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. If you'd like to help us grow, tell your friends, share on social media, and leave us a review. For those of you who want to dive a little bit deeper into the topic, join me on Twitter at Nick Kuna. Let's connect and chat about all things branding and digital. Until next time,